Hello, everybody. It's Brian for the Peerless Gamer. We're going to be continuing our story with James and Slick on Nema Station. As if you remember the last episode, James got into a spot of trouble, found himself on the business end of a couple of tasers, and has been rendered unconscious by station personnel. So, one thing that I'm going to try to do as I learn this process and understand trying to play this and make it both exciting for myself and for you is to not try to make things too difficult. During my last couple of episodes, I found myself trying to hunt up tables and things that Starforged has everything I need. So I shouldn't be trying to hunt up other tables to try to make things work. So what I'm going to do is try to stick to the core materials. And as we gain more confidence as we move along, I may try to incorporate things before the show starts instead of trying to hunt things up ahead of time. So I will try to use the tables and the resources that are available to me in the form of PDFs from Ironforge's website. Why do I say Ironforged? It's Ironsworn Starforged. So I'm going to have to figure that out because in my mind, I'm thinking Ironforged and Ironsworn. So also I'm going to try to cut down on the amount of cuts that occur. So I think it's okay to go ahead and get started. And this will be considered episode 7 of our campaign. You can go back and check out the other episodes on our YouTube channel. I will have a link at the end of the stream here to guide you to that path on YouTube. Or it may be up here, or it may be up here. So you can check that out as well. So, getting right into it, I'm also working on some different overlays to try to make things not as empty as it was the last time. So the first thing they tell you during the session moves is when you're beginning a significant play or chapter of play, which we're going to be doing right now, the idea is to set a flag. So that is a session flag. So there is it says when you identify situations or topics you don't want to include, you don't want to envision in detail, or otherwise may need mindfulness when approaching. That content is now flagged. When you encounter content flagged as something to approach mindfully, pause to consider and discuss your role in the story. When you've come across flagged content you'd rather just omit, change your fate. Okay, so obviously one of the things that we mentioned during our truths is I'm not really into hardcore torture or into gruesome murder, that kind of thing. I don't think that this lends itself to good gaming experience. Even if I had players, I probably would not. We would definitely talk through what things they didn't want to see in the campaign. So I'm no different. I must treat myself with the same respect I do my players. I don't expect the guards to do anything more than maybe rough me up. Rough up James. I think, they just kind of want to get to the bottom of things. So we'll cover that. But the whole thing is that there's no waterboarding, or he won't be spaced in many cases. I mean, there may come a point where it's like, yeah, your life's in danger, but right now it is not hey, we're going to shove you out an airlock without a suit or something like that. So. That's the flag I'm going to set. There won't be any torture or anything like that. And so identify or just flag. Okay, so we're going to review and recap what happened. All right, so in the last 2 episodes, we found out that there was a union strike on Helios Station that had recently been cleared and was done. Details were a little sketchy. But the fact was everybody was happy to be back to work and didn't really think much of it. The union, one side says the union capitulated and gave up, necessary things. The union says the company gave up specific things. So it sounds like a good negotiation and nobody was came away unhappy. We find that the captain of the Wild Deliverance is an enigmatic person. James and Slick do not see the captain a lot, so it's understood the captain is kind of off doing their own thing, and appears to be connected with somebody who's on Neoma Station. James and Slick have received a package or a parcel, huge parcel. Actually, it's a big damn crate that sits in their cargo hold that they are sending to Neoma Station. And everything went off without a hitch, even though there's pirates in the area and you know, people can board, you know, that have been boarded from time to time. The trip went uneventful, and we find that as we were heading towards Neoma Station, the big gaping maw of the black hole is first and foremost the reason Neoma Station exists. It's a research station that researches the black hole, and we make it to the station. Everything is fine. James and Slick go to one of the local watering holes. They check their email and find out the captain's wanting them to get a hold of a doctor on Neoma Station called Achet Manand. So James, of course, does what any good employee does and goes and tries to hunt up the captain's friend to, you know, extend the cordial greetings from the captain. In the ensuing attempt to find Dr. Achet Manand, security from Neoma Station takes an interest in James's inquiries and wants to question James about Dr. Manand. James attempted to run away from the guards only to find himself in a dead end and unable to overcome two guards with tasers, found himself unconscious, and we will pick back up where we left off with James being captured in a room. But we'll describe the room in a second. The last thing I want to do is it says here to begin a session you can you can also spotlight a new danger, opportunity, or insight. And this can include a scene hidden from your character's perspective. So kind of like what you might see at the beginning of a TV show where, you know, like Law and Order or something, where something bad has happened. And then the person or the two people who are talking, one of them ends up dead. And, you know, the cops come in and it's like the cops don't know what's going on because all that happened outside of the perspective of the characters. So, what I thought I would do is I'm not going to roll this time because I actually have something in mind. And so as we come to, we'll call it the flashback. I don't know, you know, Wayne's World was like, doodaloo, doodaloo, doodaloo. We come upon Neoma Station. Maybe, you know, the camera will, you know, come in like a drone or like, you know, a Deep Space Nine where you've got the zooming in shot of Neoma Station, and it comes in and it settles very slowly on a observation deck area with, you know, nice open windows that look out onto the black hole. And what you see inside is a command center of sorts. You see people in, you know, different colored jumpsuits. Some of them are scientists. Some of them are station personnel. Some of them handle operations. And the idea is this is probably set about a week ago, before, you know, the strike on Helios Station started sending regular craft and regular supplies to the station. And we see 5 people sitting there. There's a tall woman, probably on the order of about 6'2", very statuesque brunette woman in a Roy G. Biv. So indigo jumpsuit. I think we established that in the last episode that the indigo was a research scientist. You see two twins in white jumpsuits who are also there. They're staring at several computer screens. They appear to be station personnel, maintaining operations, that kind of thing. The fourth person is probably a male in his early 90s. Now remember, in the future, time is, lifetimes are much more increased. So instead of the typical 90 years that people may survive here on Earth right now, technology is such that people live to be in their, 180s, 190s. So 90 for this guy is probably about middle-aged. And he's looking pensively out the window. The final person is in a suit. And he's very clean cut, probably quite young, not as aged as the gentleman. He's in his probably mid-40s, mid-50s, and still looks like a 20-year-old would be now, kind of thing. And they're all looking out at the black hole. And the woman, the 6'2" statuesque brunette, says, we've noticed increased radiation in the past week. The twins, Tessa and Uma Hayden. So we're going to use the first two names here, Tessa and Uma Hayden. And so maybe Tessa goes by Tess, and Uma, of course, Uma. So Tess and Uma. So the lady who is, her name is Evelyn Voigt. There we go. That's a good one. Evelyn Voigt. Evelyn says, we've been experiencing increasing radiation from the black hole in the last week, where we're not exactly sure what happened or what caused it. Nothing has changed over the past, 6 months since we've been working with this. We're about to bring the lateral sensor array online in a couple weeks, barring the delivery from Helios Station. So we're hoping that we'll be able to, gain better perspective on this. And the man in the suit, whose name is Achilles, keep that one in mind, says, well, what do you think is the problem? What do you think is, what is your thought, doctor? So Evelyn, Dr. Voigt, in this case, looks at the gentleman whose name was Lars Winslet. And Dr. Winslet and myself think that, it's unprecedented, the ability for us to see a black hole like this in such detail. It's, the epitome of human knowledge at this point, but the conjecture is that the black hole is changing it somehow. We've never had a chance to study a black hole for this long, so our data is showing now trends of change that is occurring in the black hole. We don't know if it's evaporating, as some 20th century scientists have conjectured that a black hole can evaporate and go away, or if it's becoming something else. We don't know. But over the past 6 months, we've started seeing these radiation spikes. And so Achilles, and his name is Achilles Gulsvig, says, well, are we in any danger on the station? And Doctor, I don't think so. Our shielding on our station is still holding and still well within parameters, which is one reason we've set ourselves this far out from the station. We can always move ourselves further away if necessary, but right now the Hawking radiation that we're getting from this is not causing us any problems. So Achilles, Goldsvig, says, okay, unless something changes, I don't see any reason why we need to worry about this immediately. That lateral sensor array will be on in a couple of weeks, and maybe we'll get some better insights into this. You'll keep me informed, will you? And the doctor says, yes, we'll obviously if anything goes wrong, we'll let you know. As company representative, you'll be the first to know. So Achilles takes his leave from the control center, and the doctor, Dr. Evelyn, says, I don't trust that guy. Seems a little self-interested. And the other gentleman is very silent, not quite sure what to say. And all of a sudden, the sensors in the control room start spiking, and the twins say, we have a massive surge of radiation coming from the black hole. And before they can react and turn away, there's a flash of light. And when the flash of light is done, all of the people in the control room are laying on the ground unconscious. We've set our scene, our background scene, so we're going to, obviously when the flash of light happened, everybody's unconscious on the floor. So that will be where everything kind of poofs off. And in a TV show, it'd be like, fade to black, then they come up, and there's, the intro to the TV show, and, then we'd have another commercial, and then we'd come back to our character. So, in this case, James, so I also get one momentum as we return to play from the viewpoint of your characters. So, James obviously is not doing so well. As you know, in our last episode, he was, the tasers don't feel good, right? And so he was tased, and he was unconscious. He's a little unsure as to how long that is, because I believe Garcia was the officer's name, took his AI pad, so he does not have access to chronometer or anything like that to be able to tell him how long he was out. Finds himself in a room. It's not an interrogation room like you would see in a police station or something like that, with the one-way mirror, and he's not shackled to the chair or to the table or anything like that. It is a table. It almost looks like a storage room that was converted to. There's a door. It's very sparse. So there's a light. There's actually track lights up there. It's very nice. It's. I think we mentioned in the last episode 5, that this used to be the station, because everything is kind of scarce being in this new galaxy. Nothing is wasted. So this was a converted, almost Disneyland kind of station where people would go for entertainment. So maybe there's some faded paint on the walls where this used to be like a daycare or something like that, or like, where kids would come and play. So the walls are still a bit faded on that. And he finds himself in a very sparse room with the lights and the table and the chair. And the chair's, it's uncomfortable. But there's, he's groggy, and he's, oh God, my head. And then he realizes, oh shit, and finds himself in a room with 2 security guards, the same 2 that actually tased him. So one is standing slightly behind him, and Garcia is standing in front of him. So he's awake, and Officer Garcia says, I see you're awake. It's glad you're back. I need you to answer a few questions. So, I think we're going to make we're going to cover, I'm going to change our fate. So we're going to adventure moves. So that'd be page 2, right? Secure information, compel. Okay, so yeah, compel, check your gear. So we're going to be, might need to secure an advantage or gather information. So Officer Garcia is asking, she says, according to your registration, you're the first mate on the Wild Deliverance from Helia Station. Is that correct? James doesn't have any reason to lie because they probably looked everything up. So he's like, yeah, I am. Why am I here? Why are you detaining? Why was I tased? And Garcia's like, we'll ask the questions here for now. Why were you looking for Dr. Anand? And does James want to lie? Does James want to lie? You know what? I think James is just about tired of being asked a bunch of questions, and he's not exactly happy about being tased. And I'm having a think that he would probably be a bit of a wise ass. And I would say he is going to lie. Or he's going to attempt to deceive. So my shadow is 2, so I'm actually pretty good at this. So I'm going to roll. So I'm going to roll shadow, and I'm going to attempt to compel. So I'm going to say, okay, so 1 and a 1 plus my shadow is 2, so that's, oh no, sorry, this is a 1 and a 4. So I got a weak hit. So a weak hit, agreement comes with a demand or a complication. Envision their counteroffer. Okay, so I say, there we go. Okay, so I'll say, I'll tell you what I'm doing here, but I need to understand what I'm being held for. And so Officer Garcia says that Dr. Manand was murdered 2 days ago on Neoma Station. And you're the first person to come in from out of the station looking for Dr. Manand. James is taken aback. And because it's a weak hit, I'm going to give him the answers they want. And James says, my employer sent me an email letting me know that Dr. Manand was on Neoma Station, that I needed to reach out to her. And that's all I did. I was just looking to find Dr. Manand. I'm sorry that how did she die? Dr. Garcia, or Officer Garcia, says that it was made to look like an industrial accident, but we found evidence of tampering with the machinery. Sounds good. I like that. James is, of course, shook, is surprised, and Officer Garcia says, what is your captain's relationship with Dr. Manand? And charm, pacify, encourage, or barter. I think I'm going to use another compel, but this time I'm going to use charm, pacify, encourage, or barter. So I'm going to use heart, and that's my best attribute. That is a 3. Okay, so that is another weak hit. So, okay, so I'll be like, hey, listen, James is like, hey, listen, if if I knew she was dead, I would have, told my captain or what have you. I'm pretty sure my captain didn't know that she was dead either, or had passed away. Maybe we can help one another. I can contact my captain and let him know what's going on and see what we can, what he might know, or you can contact my captain and tell him I'm on the up and up here. Officer Garcia is like, what was you planning on doing when you saw Dr. Manand? And James says, I just wanted to pass cordial greetings from my boss. That was nothing else. I mean, if they were super friendly, I may have gotten a drink with the doctor and we would have, talked about the captain, old times. I've been, I don't know how well the captain knew Dr. Manand. So, Garcia and the other officer, do I notice anything in the movement or body language from observation? So let's secure an advantage. I'm going to attempt to roll wits, and my wits is a 2, so I'm actually pretty good at this. Oh God, okay. Well, it's still a weak hit. So I can take +2 momentum or add 1 to my next move, not a progress move. Okay. So what I see in terms of momentum is good. What I observe from them is I have a feeling they expected more, right? They were expecting to find some information. Maybe, I don't see what's going on behind me, but maybe the reaction from the officer behind me to Garcia is one like, maybe they don't believe me. Garcia is going to say, what if the doctor, doctor was involved with something. So doctor was involved with an experiment. So James asks, well, what was the doctor working on that was tampered with that caused her death? And Officer Garcia says she was working on the brand new lateral sensor array that was going to be brought online, according to her supervisor, to study the black hole in greater depths. And she was working on placing some items in the station in a spacewalk, and there was an accident and her suit depressurized before we could get her back inside. But on further inspection, it appears that there was a hole near what was a tear in her suit, meaning that it looks like it might have been an explosive decompression from inside, leading us to believe that she was killed, but we do not know why or what the motive is. She was well liked by many in her area. So James says, I don't know what to say. I would love to help you with this if we can. I feel like I owe you that, and I owe the captain that, because if that's the captain's friend, then we should probably figure out what's going on. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is make a connection. So I'll get the dice here. And so what I'm going to do is, when you search out a new relationship, so ideally what we're going to do is attempt to offer our services, our connection to somebody who knew somebody, try to make it so that we can, help out if needed. All right, so we need to roll heart, and heart for us is so we have a double, and we've already beat it, so that's great. We didn't even need to roll, figure out what our heart was, but we've even gone further than that. So, and heart was our best option. So we have a 4 plus a 3, so that's a 7, and we rolled 2 2s. So not only did we get a strong hit, but we got an exceptionally strong hit. And so I'm going to put Officer Garcia down as a new connection. Actually, I'll put the other person down as well. So Officer Atter, the guard Atter and Officer Garcia are now connections. I'll put them both down as connections to make sure that we have those available. So I will add those to my both connections. And that will give us additional abilities later on with regard to, maybe things that happen elsewhere. Maybe they have connections that they can introduce us to later on. So we make a massive, massive win here for our connections with local law enforcement. And maybe we have other connections with other folks in law enforcement on the station, but I'd imagine we kept to ourselves and didn't get involved too much with the folks on NEMA station. So yeah, that makes 100% complete sense of excellent here. So, all right, awesome. That makes me feel real good. Officer Garcia is like, yes, absolutely, and Officer Atter are 100% on board with they have limited resources because it's a research station, so maybe they're private contractors with a company and overworked. There's a ton of stuff going on. Maybe there's other things that we could help them with later on. But that is we can be assets to one another. We can enable that together. So, well, that session went a little better than I had expected. We have some new friends. We're helping out with a potential murder investigation. And what was with that bolt of light that hit the station? We'll have to investigate that a little bit more, and maybe maybe something will come of that. So I hope you like and subscribe, and hook up with all the stuff that's right over my shoulder here. And we'll be back for another episode of Peerless Gamer very soon. All right, take care. Have a good day. Bye.